DeSantis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thanks to the members of the court and the professors. Judge Kaczynski, do courts, your court, district court, Supreme Court, just have a roving authority to review actions of the political branches?
No.
So it needs to require a concrete legal case or controversy, correct?
Absolutely.
So if the president does things, Congress does things, it may end up in front of the court properly, but there may just be no way people can get into court for you guys to adjudicate if no one has standing to bring a legal case, right?
Absolutely.
Do you believe that Article III courts possess the institutional competence to second-guess national security decisions made by the president or the Congress?
In general, not.
And why?
I would have to be presented with an actual legal issue to understand. I mean, there are certainly possibilities that Congress passes a law that gives us authority to adjudicate such an issue. But in general, courts are very poorly informed in terms of making foreign policy decisions. We don't have the information.
Is it safe to say that there would be a difference between a court passing judgment in a proper case between whether action was lawful or constitutional versus whether it was politically wise or the correct policy, correct?
I agree with you entirely.
What are the checks on the courts as you understand the Constitution? I mean, Congress can pass a statute, maybe its president signs it, it goes beyond Congress's authority, you guys, or infringes the Bill of Rights, you guys can have a case before you can effectively check the Congress through a concrete case. You guys get it wrong. Your district court gets it wrong. Supreme Court gets it just grievously wrong. How do the American people check bad court decisions?
Well, if I may say so, when the Supreme Court speaks, by the gets it right. If the Supreme Court interprets the Constitution, that's the way. That's what the Constitution says. That's the way our system works.
Well, I disagree with that. I mean, I think if you look at cases from like the Dred Scott decision in other states, courts are not infallible. And I think you're a very smart guy. I like a lot of your opinions, and I think you're very principled. But I really disagree with that. This is not speaking ex cathedra from this building over here. They do get it wrong, and I guess your argument to me is that there is no recourse for the Supreme Court. 5-4 decision. Even if we think it's way outside what the Constitution is, there's no mechanism for us to check that, correct?
Well, yes, we can amend the Constitution. There is a mechanism, and we can amend the Constitution. We can also, the Supreme Court does, and let me just make clear, I disagree with any number of opinions of the Supreme Court, particularly those where I was reversed. I disagree with every single one of those. They got it totally wrong, but as a matter of constitutional law, if the Supreme Court says that's what the Constitution says.
Well, yes, you as a circuit judge are bound by it, of course, and I think
bound by it, and but the Supreme Court does reconsider its views from time to time. We saw that happened with case Bowers versus Hardwick, that held that homosexual sodomy could be criminalized, and 17 years later the court changed its mind and reversed course. So the court does reconsider its rulings, and one possibility and one way in which those of us who disagree with the Supreme Court's, some of the Supreme Court's rulings can seek to reverse a decision is by bringing other cases and making a stronger case and persuading the court to change its mind.
But that requires private parties. That requires some. That's not Congress, as the representatives of people checking. Now, there are different things in the Constitution, circumscribing your jurisdiction and whatnot. But here's why I think I'm concerned, because I think that some of the courts in your circuit are playing a dangerous game here. I mean, when you talk about analyzing an executive action that's taken directly pursuant to a very broad congressional statute, and you basically say, if the president was somebody else, it would be lawful. But because this president campaigned and said things that we disagree with, Oh, no, call it off. It's illegal.
Would the gentleman suspend? I'll give you back the time, but consistent with the judge's other role, they can answer any hypothetical question they want, but nothing related to a.
I was going to end with the statement, so that's. I'm not expecting the answer.
I apologize. Go
But
ahead.
my concern is that when that's being done and you're invoking these campaign statements, I don't see a principled way where that's going to end up making sense over the long term. And I understand there's antipathy in our country that is reflected on some of your courts for the current president, but that is not enough of a reason to wade into some of these sensitive matters of national security. And so I think the courts, why they think they're saving the day from some people's perspectives, I think they may end up in the long run undermining, their proper role. So I don't expect them to respond, but that's just my view, and I'm concerned, and I yield back.
I thank the gentleman. I might note that our former president thought Citizens United was badly told the Supremes in the well of the House. So many people don't like decisions, but I side with Judge Kaminsky. Ultimately, theirs is the last word at the time they make it. And with that,